There are four former Beavers that are on the coaching staff this spring, and it's kind of within the same general framework. Is that just a coincidence, or is it something about playing with Coach Riley and coming back?
You know, I think Coach Riley, it shows what a great coach and what a great guy he is. You know, there's not a lot of staffs out there that embrace former players coming back and starting their coaching career at their alma mater. So Coach Riley's been a great mentor to me, both playing for him and then when I was in the NFL. So, you know, whatever I could do when I come back and give back to this program, like I was so fortunate to have in my younger days. And you know, Coach Riley, it's just been a lot of fun playing for him, coaching with him. I mean, he is just a great guy.
Several former players that are now in the NFL have talked about Coach Riley's system, and maybe it's him being in the pros for a while that it's really been a plus to them. Now, you've been in the pros. What is it about Coach Riley's system that helps when you get to the pro level?
You know, it's the way he structures things. The structure that he has here at Oregon State is the same that the NFL teams have at that level, because you know, he was there, but you know, he was a head coach in the NFL. He wants to run things professionally, just like an NFL organization does. So it makes that transition a lot smoother. When I got to the league, I was like, gosh, this is going to be different. But when it came down to it, it's the same schedule I had here. It was the same similar format as far as practice. You know, so that was the easy part about it. It makes things a lot easier in that transition. So
most of your college experience here was with Coach Kavanaugh. Talk about Coach Cav and what it was like playing for him.
He is he's a tough guy. He's gonna be hard on you guys during the week, but he's gonna love you even harder, you know, when it's all said and done. So, you know, he's gonna push the younger guys, and that's what football's about, especially the offensive line. He's gonna push it. He's gonna make it hard for you during the week, just because he knows come Saturday, that's the day that's fun. You know, it's when things are hard during the week, Saturdays are just easy. That's his philosophy, and that's what's made him so successful. I had the same coach in the NFL, in Howard Mudd, and he grinded us during the week. You know, he made things hard. He gave us looks that were the hardest looks to see, hardest things to pick up. But on Sundays for us, it was easy. So, you know, when you grind during the week, you're going to get better every day, and you're going to get better on Saturdays.
You started 25 games in the NFL, played in the big game, the Super Bowl. What do you feel as you get into coaching that can bring and add to your experience working with current players? You
know, a lot of the great coaches have been, you know, former players. There's a lot of guys that have been out there in the trenches or ran the routes or covered guys or rushed the passers. So, you know, I think my abilities to relate to the kids on a personal level, on an athletic level, it's going to be tremendous. Everything that I teach, everything that Cav teaches, you know, I've done it, or he's physically seen guys do it. He's not going to put kids in situations to fail because he's not sure of a technique. We're always going to keep improving our technique and make sure that it's all relative to the game. You know, I don't think I'd ever teach a guy something if I wasn't physically able to do it, or I don't believe it's going to work. So I think that's a big thing for coaches.
You're embarking on a coaching career. Desire to still play in the NFL. What happens if the phone rings?
You know, we'll have to come to that, you know, if that opportunity arises. You know, I'm still working out, still lifting and running, but right now it's my focus is on helping the Beavers get better. You know, we got a young group and a very up and coming group. This Oregon State team has a great future ahead. So, you know, if my future is coaching, then great. You know, I'm all excited. I'm all about it. I'm very excited. But you know, if there's still playing left, I'd love to you know, see if that can happen again.
Most of the fans out there, particularly with all the media attention to Peyton Manning this year, they have these thoughts and ideas about Peyton. You have a very unique experience. You know, you protected him. You work with him every day. What's it like? Tell the fans what it's really like playing with Peyton Manning.
It's very similar to Coach Cav. You know, he puts a lot of responsibility on his players and himself. He's going to hold everyone accountable. Whether, you know, the left guard messes up, a receiver messes up, or he messes up, he's going to jump you, and that's to make sure everyone's you know, on the right page. You know, when he messes up, he holds himself accountable. He'll make him do reps. He'll make himself do reps over. He'll make other players do reps over. That's because he wants everyone on the same page. Everyone everyone to know what they're trying to accomplish as a whole, and that's what's made him the greatest over the last 14, 15 years, because he's going to outwork the opponents. He's going to make sure everyone's doing things the exact correct way. And I think he has a great opportunity in Denver. I think he's really going to instill perfection in there, and that's what he's about. And as you can see throughout his career, 4 MVPs, he's the only player to ever do that. So, I'm looking forward to seeing him put together a great team in Denver.
The other thing about Peyton, everybody always wants to know that, he calls all the plays and audibilizes. Can you take us fans that have never been on an NFL field, what it's like when plays change and how fast it changes for Peyton?
You have a split second to make a decision, and that was the fun thing about playing with him. He always put us in the best play possible. We got calls from the offense coordinator, and if they gave us a coverage or a look that wasn't suitable for that play, he would put us in a different play. And sometimes it'd be 10 seconds left on the play clock, sometimes it'd be 2 seconds, and we just played fast, and that's what made it fun. We were always in the best play possible, and we're always, like I said, it's a split-second decision. You have to know what you're doing. You have to know the possible looks that he's going to give. He can give us one play, but he has 3 plays in his head. So you got to think like him. So if he calls a run play, you got to be ready to run that run play, whether it's right or left, or he just might check it to a pass and throw the ball down the field. You got to be prepared for that. So you're always on your toes. You're always ready for a change.
You were cut by 2 NFL teams, and we're almost out of football. Got the call with the Colts. Ended up, again, playing in the Super Bowl. What message is that for young players that, about the not giving up? Talk about that with young players.
It's that old saying of follow your dreams and never give up. My dream was to play in the NFL. It was to be an NFL player, and I didn't really achieve that my first year around. I was on practice squad. I got cut from the Redskins, didn't even go to training camp, went to training camp with the Jets and got cut again at the end of it, and then finally was on practice squad. I felt, I was close, but I still had a lot to prove to myself. It's at that point in my career, it wasn't about everyone else. It wasn't about my family. It wasn't about the people watching or supporting. It was about proving to myself that I belong here, and so it's all about hard work. I had a dream to play in the NFL, and I was able to achieve that in 2009 when I was on the opening day roster with the Indianapolis Colts. So that was a big accomplishment.
Last question about the NFL. I know it's something that very few people will ever experience. Take us through what it was like when at the Super Bowl your name was called and you realized you were starting in the biggest football game in the world.
It's fun. All the guys, I was lucky enough to be on a team where half the guys had been in the Super Bowl 2 years prior. So they gave me a lot of advice. They helped me out a lot with the week. There's a lot of media responsibility. There's a lot of things going on during the Super Bowl. So, they just expressed to just treat it like a regular week. If on Wednesday, you have dinner at 7 and go to bed at 9:30, then do that during the Super Bowl week. So that part was easy. It never really hit me I was in the Super Bowl until right around kickoff. The infamous camera flash that goes off on that initial kickoff. And once that happened, I looked around and saw 50,000 cameras going off, and it kind of hit me. Wow, this is real. And so I had that feeling. But once that first play happened and that first hit took place, it was all about football at that time. It was all about my responsibilities and trying to win a game.
Technically, you're not a coach or GA yet. You're an intern. You won't be a GA until August. What are you looking forward to? What's it like for you right now?
It's a little different. I can't do any on-field coaching. It's more of, in the classroom, telling the guys, about, helping them with their technique. It's explaining to them why we do things and the purpose of doing things. Once we get out there in the fall, I can't wait to work with these guys one-on-one. Really being able to break down technique and break down things that why we do something, how we do something, and when we do something, and it's in that order. So, we'll take individual drills and we'll work on that, and then we'll go 2-on-1, and then we'll go a full group. And I'm excited to work with these guys and watch them blossom. I was an 18, 19, 20-year-old kid at one point where, I had my eyes wide open and I didn't really know what was going on. So, I've been there, and I want to just express to these guys that, if they buy in, if they really buy into Coach Cav's technique, there's great things that can happen. So, once fall comes around, I'm actually able to be out there instructing and coaching. I'm really looking forward to that. So it'll be fun.